Good morning, y'all. I'm going to ask you to do something right at the top of this video before I say another word, and I want you to actually do it, not bookmark it for later, not scroll past it, right now. I want you to think about every person in your life who lives in Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, Arkansas, Missouri, Iowa, or anywhere across the south central United States. Think about your parents, your siblings, your college roommate, your childhood neighbor. Because what I'm about to tell you in this video is the kind of thing that needs to reach those people, and it needs to reach them right now, not Saturday afternoon when the atmosphere has already pulled the trigger. The reason I'm starting this way is because what is setting up across this country over the next several days is not a garden variety severe weather event. It is a sequence, a prolonged, compounding, consecutive day multi-system, multi-hazard, severe weather sequence that is going to keep this region on the receiving end of violent atmospheric energy for the better part of 4 straight days. And the word I keep coming back to when I look at this data, the word that feels the most honest and the most accurate, is dangerous. Not alarming, not dramatic, dangerous, because that is what it is. Let me start with something that I want every person watching this video to sit with for a moment, because it is the single most important meteorological fact about this coming sequence, and it is the one that tells you, more than any individual forecast number, exactly how seriously you need to take this. The Storm Prediction Center, the federal agency in Norman, Oklahoma, that is responsible for forecasting severe thunderstorms and tornadoes across the entire continental United States, has issued extended-range severe weather outlooks for 4 consecutive days. Saturday, April 11th, Sunday, April 12th, Monday, April 13th, Tuesday, April 14th. 4 straight days. Now I need you to understand what that means in the context of how the SPC actually operates, because most people do not know this, and it changes everything about how you should interpret this information. Extended range outlooks at the day 4 through day 8 range are not issued routinely. They are not issued every week. They are not issued every time a storm system is approaching. They are issued when forecast confidence for organized severe weather is high enough, far enough in advance, that the forecasters at the SPC feel that the public needs to know days ahead of time, not hours. When the SPC issues consecutive extended range outlooks across 4 sequential days, covering overlapping geographic areas with increasing confidence, forecasters who study these patterns say that level of advanced signal is seen only a couple of times per year at most. A couple of times per year. That means what is setting up right now is not ordinary. It is not routine. And it is not something you should treat as background noise. Now let me explain exactly what the atmosphere is doing to generate this kind of 4-day severe weather signal, because understanding the mechanism is what helps you understand why this sequence is going to be so prolonged and so difficult to escape for the communities in its path. The large-scale pattern driving this entire event is an amplified, progressive, split-flow pattern in the jet stream across the North American continent. What that means in plain language is this. The jet stream has divided into 2 distinct branches. An upper branch running across northern Canada and a lower, more energetic branch digging southward across the western and central United States. And that lower branch is loaded. It is carrying wave after wave of disturbance energy from the Pacific into the interior of the country, each one arriving approximately 24 to 36 hours behind the previous one. That is why this event has 4 days of threat instead of 1. It is not one storm system. It is a conveyor belt of storm systems, each one riding the same atmospheric track, each one hitting the same general corridor of the south-central United States, each one arriving just as the communities in its path are beginning to think they can breathe again after the previous round. A conveyor belt. That is the word I want you to carry with you, because that is exactly what the atmosphere is running right now. Let me walk y'all through the sequence day by day, because I think granular specificity is what makes this information actionable, rather than just alarming. Saturday, April 11th, is the opening act, and while it is the least extreme day of the 4, it is still a day where real, organized, severe weather is going to develop across a real geographic corridor with real communities in it. Mid-level southwesterly flow strengthening over the central United States is going to interact with a moist air mass that has been building across the southern and central plains for the past 48 hours. Surface dew points in the mid to upper 60s are going to provide the thermodynamic fuel. The convective initiation corridor for Saturday runs from the southern high plains of West Texas, think Lubbock, Midland, Abilene, northward through the Texas Panhandle and into southwestern Oklahoma. Cape values of around 1,000 to 1,500 joules per kilogram combined with 0 to 6 kilometer shear in the 30 to 40 knot range is going to be sufficient for organized severe thunderstorms. The primary threats Saturday are large, hail, and damaging wind gusts. But here's what matters most about Saturday. It is not the main event, it is the first car in the train. And the train does not stop. Sunday, April 12th, is when this sequence makes its first major escalation, and it is the day I have been watching most closely in the medium range because the model signal for it is extraordinary. A 50 to 60 knot mid-level jet racing through central and northeast Texas during the Sunday afternoon and evening hours. And I want you to understand that a 50 to 60 knot mid-level jet positioned over a moist, unstable boundary layer is the atmospheric configuration that produces organized, discrete, rotating, violent supercell thunderstorms, is going to interact with surface dew points that have returned to the upper 60s across North Texas and central and eastern Oklahoma following Saturday's activity. The instability the models are generating for Sunday afternoon in this corridor is running between 2,000 and 2,800 joules per kilogram of CAPE. The storm relative helicity values, the measure of the atmosphere's capacity for thunderstorm rotation, are forecast at 250 to 350 meters squared per second squared. On a day with that shear profile and that instability, the storms that develop are not going to be garden variety severe thunderstorms producing brief, weak spin-ups. They are going to be persistent, organized supercells with a potential for long-track tornadoes, very large hail, and destructive straight-line winds. The SPC language for Sunday already uses the words substantial severe threat, and the phrase supercells with large hail, wind damage, and a tornado threat. That language does not appear in ordinary medium-range outlooks. It appears when the forecasters in Norman are looking at a Sunday afternoon and seeing something genuinely concerning. Dallas, Fort Worth, Denton, Wichita Falls, Lawton, Oklahoma City, Tulsa. Every single one of those communities needs a finalized shelter plan before Saturday morning. Not Sunday. Before Saturday. Monday, April 13th, is not a day of rest for this corridor. A moist and unstable air mass is forecast to remain anchored across the southern plains and extend north-northeastward into the upper Mississippi Valley and lower Missouri Valley as the previous system's cold front stalls across the region and the next disturbance in the conveyor belt begins to approach from the west. The primary threat zone on Monday shifts slightly northward and eastward. The greatest potential for severe storms on Monday is forecast from the southern plains through the lower Missouri Valley and into portions of the upper Mississippi Valley. CAPE values of 1,200 to 1,500 joules per kilogram and 0 to 6 kilometer shear in the 30 to 40 knot range are going to support continued organized severe thunderstorm development across a corridor that includes communities like Joplin, Springfield, Kansas City, and portions of southern Iowa. This is not the peak day of the sequence, but it is a day where supercell development is possible, where large hail and tornado threats are real, and where communities that have already absorbed 2 days of severe weather are going to have to stay alert and stay engaged. And that word, fatigue, is one of the things that worries me most about a 4-day sequence like this one. Severe weather fatigue is a documented phenomenon, where people who have been through multiple days of threats and warnings begin to unconsciously lower their guard. They stop checking the radars frequently. They tell themselves they've been through the worst, and they are probably fine. They go to sleep without setting up their overnight warning systems. Please, y'all, do not let that happen to you or to the people in your life this week. Every day of this sequence is dangerous on its own terms. Tuesday, April 14th, is the day in this sequence that is making the loudest noise in the extended model data, and the one that I want to spend the most time on, because it is where the conveyor belt delivers its most powerful disturbance. The western U.S. trough that has been the engine of this entire 4-day sequence is finally forecast to reach the southern plains in full force on Tuesday. And what arrives with it is the kind of synoptic setup that does not tolerate ambiguity in the forecast. A powerful mid-level jet of 60 to 70 knots is forecast to drive into the southern plains during the Tuesday afternoon hours, directly over the top of a moist and unstable air mass that, by this point, has had 4 days to cycle and recover and reload. The SPC's extended language for Tuesday uses the word substantial. Let me tell you what that word means in the context of a National Weather Service forecast discussion, because forecasters at the federal level are trained to be conservative, to understate rather than overstate, to reserve their most alarming language for their most alarming setups. Substantial does not mean possible. It does not mean marginal. Substantial means this could be a significant severe weather event with organized, intense storm development across a broad area. The corridor that has been identified as the highest concern zone for Tuesday runs from the Texas Panhandle in southwestern Kansas, Amarillo, Liberal, Dodge City, southeastward through central Oklahoma and into Arkansas, Missouri, and portions of Illinois, Little Rock, Fort Smith, Fayetteville, Joplin, Springfield, and areas approaching St. Louis are all within the highlighted zone. In some model solutions for Tuesday, the deep layer wind shear and instability values in the best overlap zone rival what we saw during major outbreak days earlier in this 2026 spring season. And y'all, this 2026 spring season has already proven it is not a quiet one. I have to talk about this season's context because it matters enormously for understanding what this 4-day sequence means in the larger picture. Multiple meteorological analysts have now confirmed that spring 2026 is on track to be the most active tornado season the United States has seen since 2011. Not since 2024, not since 2025, since 2011. The same 2011 that produced the super outbreak on April 27th, the same 2011 that produced the Joplin EF5 in May. The atmospheric driver of that comparison is something you have probably heard discussed elsewhere, the transition from La Niña to ENSO-neutral conditions. Scientific research published in peer-reviewed literature has documented a statistically significant link between La Niña to neutral ENSO transitions in spring and increased tornado outbreak frequency across the plains. The 7 analog years since 1995 in which La Niña transitioned to neutral during spring are 1996, 2001, 2006, 2011, 2012, 2018, and 2021. The 2 most active severe weather seasons in that group, 2011 and 2021, we are in that same transition right now. The La Niña that dominated winter 2025 through 2026 has collapsed with remarkable speed. The weekly Nino 3. 4 index has surged from negative 1.1 degrees Celsius in December to near neutral in April. And what that transition does is unlock the atmospheric patterns that favor repeated, organized, high shear, severe weather events across the traditional tornado corridor. Add to that the Gulf of Mexico sea surface temperatures that are running well above the long-term average and providing exceptional moisture for every system that taps into that energy. And what you have is an atmosphere that is loaded, cocked, and pointed directly at the south-central United States in the peak climatological window for violent tornadoes. April, mid-April, right now, this week. I want to be very direct with y'all about what the combination of all of these factors means for the coming 4 days specifically. When you have 4 consecutive days of organized severe weather potential, targeting overlapping geographic areas with communities at the bullseye for 2 to 3 consecutive days of threat, Oklahoma City, Tulsa, Dallas, Wichita, the cumulative impact is not just the sum of 4 individual days. It is dramatically worse than that. On day 2 or day 3, you are dealing with communities that may have damaged structures from the first round, power outages that have not been restored, emergency personnel who are stretched and fatigued, roads that are flooded from previous rainfall, people who are emotionally and physically depleted. And into that environment, the next round of severe weather arrives with full force and asks everyone to respond at the same level of vigilance and effectiveness they brought on day 1. The most dangerous days in a 4-day sequence are not always the most meteorologically intense days. They are often day 3 and day 4, when the atmosphere is still dangerous and the human response system has been worn down. Please account for this in your planning. Build in margin. Stay engaged all 4 days. Do not assume the worst is behind you until the last watch has expired on Tuesday night. I also need to spend specific time on the overnight severe weather threat across this 4-day sequence because it is not confined to daytime hours, and the nighttime rounds are the ones that keep me awake. The squall line convection associated with Sunday nights and Monday night systems is forecast to be pushing through portions of Arkansas, western Tennessee, and western Kentucky during windows ranging from 11 at night through 4 in the morning. Y'all know what I am going to say here because I have said it every time this situation has come up, and I will say it every time it comes up for as long as I am doing this. People die in nighttime tornadoes at dramatically higher rates than in daytime tornadoes, not because nighttime tornadoes are stronger, but because people are asleep. The outdoor siren is going off 3 blocks away, and the person in the back bedroom with the ceiling fan running cannot hear it. The wireless emergency alert fires on their phone, and the do not disturb setting kills it before it can make a sound. And 60 seconds later, the storm is already there, and it is too late. I created Y'all Call because I could not stand watching that happen to people who had warnings issued for their exact location and still did not know until the storm arrived. Y'all Call calls your phone directly when a tornado warning polygon covers your GPS coordinates, not a notification. Not a banner, a phone call, the kind that forces its way through sleep mode, through do not disturb, through everything, and it does not stop ringing until you pick up. $14.95 for a full year of protection. The link is in the description below this video. Please, before any of the overnight windows in this 4-day sequence open up, before Sunday night, before Monday night, before Tuesday night, set it up. Do it today. Do it right now if you are in the affected area. I am completely serious about that. The flooding threat from this 4-day sequence deserves a full standalone discussion because it is going to affect the largest geographic footprint of any single hazard, and it is going to linger long after the last storm has passed. When you have 4 consecutive days of organized convection training over the same broad geographic corridor, the cumulative rainfall totals that result are not just the sum of 4 individual storm events. They are amplified dramatically by runoff from already saturated ground, by rivers and streams that have been filling since round 1, by drainage systems that hit capacity well before Tuesday arrives. The WPC is already flagging excessive rainfall risk across portions of the southern and central plains and the Mississippi and Ohio valleys for multiple days across this sequence. In the areas most directly in the training thunderstorm corridor, the Ozark Plateau of northern Arkansas and southern Missouri, the Red River watershed of North Texas and southern Oklahoma, the Arkansas River Basin, multi-day rainfall accumulations of 5 to 9 inches are within the range of possibility. 5 to 9 inches on already wet terrain produces river flooding that does not peak until 48 to 72 hours after the rainfall has ended. That means communities along the Arkansas River, the Red River, the Canadian River, and the upper reaches of the Mississippi drainage basin need to be watching river stage forecasts not just this week, but into next week. Flash flooding will be the immediate, acute threat during each storm round. River flooding will be the delayed, sustained threat that follows. Both of them can kill people. Both of them demand your full attention. Let me also say something about the straight line wind threat from the squall line that is going to consolidate and mature on multiple days of this sequence, particularly Sunday night and Monday, because this is the hazard that catches people off guard the most reliably in a setup like this one. When the supercell convection from Sunday's afternoon initiation begins to consolidate into an organized squall line or bow echo Sunday evening, the rear inflow jet driving into the back of that system will be capable of producing surface wind gusts in the 70s to 85 mile per hour range along the bowing segment, even in areas where no tornado is occurring at that moment. Trees that are already root compromised from recent saturated ground are going to come down with those wind gusts. Power infrastructure is going to come down. Roofing materials on homes that were marginally damaged in Saturday's round are going to fail completely in Sunday's squall line. Please, if you have any large trees near your home, near your vehicle, near outbuildings, assess them now. If a tree looks like it is leaning, if the roots look partially exposed, if there was any prior storm damage that compromised the structure, that tree is a projectile in 80 mile per hour wind, take it seriously before the sequence begins. Y'all, I am going to close this forecast the way the forecast demands to be closed, with urgency that matches the setup, with action items that are specific and achievable, and with the reminder that the information in this video only saves lives if it reaches the people who need it before the storms arrive. So here is your action list. Today, not tomorrow, not Saturday morning, today, walk to your shelter and time yourself. Clear anything that would slow you down getting there in the dark. Charge every device in your house and pick up a backup battery if you do not already have one. Set up y'all call before you go to sleep tonight, because Sunday's overnight window is less than 48 hours from right now. Make a communication plan with everyone in your household about where to meet if cell service is disrupted, and then share this video. Post it to your social media. Text it directly to your family members in Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, Arkansas, Missouri. Tag the people in your life who have not seen a single severe weather forecast this week. Because this is the most prolonged, most consecutive day, most geographically broad, severe weather sequence that this country has seen so far in the spring of 2026. And the people in its path deserve to know that before it arrives, not while it is happening. I'm going live Saturday afternoon the moment the first cells initiate, and I am staying live through every single round of this sequence, through every overnight window, through every watch and warning, until this entire 4-day event is over and every community is on the other side of it. Subscribe to this channel right now and hit the bell so you get notified the moment I go live. I will be right here with y'all every step of the way, all 4 days. Stay safe out there. I love every single one of you.